The shattered sky. The storm came without warning. It began as a low vibration that rippled through the upper atmosphere, rattling satellites and sending waves of static across Earth's communication networks. In control rooms from Houston to Beijing, screens glitched into static, engineers shouted into dead headsets, and commanders demanded explanations that no one could give. Above the North Sea, the sky tore apart. It wasn't a storm in any sense humanity had known. The clouds didn't roll, they fractured, jagged shards of light splintering the heavens. Bolts of fire lanced downward, not the chaotic dance of lightning, but precise, calculated strikes. Each bolt punched into the ocean, sending walls of water hundreds of meters high roaring toward the coastlines. From the observation deck of a weather station in Oslo, Dr. Ingrid gripped the railing until her knuckles bled. "This isn't weather," she whispered. "This is an invasion." She was right. The first wave hit hard. Fishermen's boats capsized. Coastal towns vanished beneath surging water. But then came something stranger. The fiery bolts that struck the sea didn't dissolve into steam, they hardened into spires, jagged pillars of stone and metal, as though the heavens themselves were planting roots into earth. And then, through the heart of that storm, two figures fell. They didn't tumble helplessly like debris. They descended with purpose, with weight, with presence. The first landed with an impact that cracked the earth into a crater, his weapon, a hammer forged of storm and star metal, singing with power. The second crashed in a streak of crimson light, cape blazing, fists smoldering with energy that outshone the fires around her. The people of Oslo, terrified yet transfixed, dared to hope. The man rose, broad-shouldered and scarred, silver armor glinting with runes that hummed like thunder. His eyes carried the weight of battles fought far beyond the stars. He raised his hammer skyward, and the storm seemed to hesitate, as though recognizing its master. Beside him, the woman stood tall, radiant as a comet, her presence both fierce and steady. Her cape snapped in the gale, her fists glowing brighter than the shattered sky above. She placed a hand on his arm and spoke, her voice steady despite the chaos. "They're here, aren't they?" The warrior's gaze never left the storm. "Aye. The Pantheon has come." High above, cloaked in cosmic flame, the alien Pantheon emerged. They looked like gods. That was their cruelty, their deception. Each figure radiated power that dwarfed the sun, but none were divine. They were conquerors, civilizations distilled into avatars of fear. Worlds had been ground beneath their boots, empires had sworn oaths of servitude under their blades. They were gods by conquest, not creation. At their head floated a figure clad in obsidian armor, his body carved like a statue of war, his eyes glowing with a furnace of dying stars. He spread his arms wide as though to embrace the planet below. "Another world," he intoned, his voice carrying across the void. "Another people to kneel." Around him, the Pantheon stirred. The huntress god with her endless quiver of black arrows. The flame titan who carried a star's heart in his chest. The oracle who wove illusions so vast that entire species died in dreams they believed real. One by one, their eyes fixed on Earth. On the ground, panic spread. Military command centers scrambled jets. Missiles were armed. Yet even the boldest commanders felt their courage falter. Humanity had always imagined gods. To see them descend with fire and ruin was to see myths turn to nightmares. But amid that fear, the silver-armored warrior struck his hammer into the earth. The shockwave silenced the chaos for miles. His voice carried like thunder across the city. "Men and women of Earth," he bellowed, "you do not stand alone. The Pantheon seeks chains, but they will find only resistance. By the oath I swore in the ashes of 1,000 fallen worlds, I will fight beside you." The woman's voice followed, calm yet unshakable. "I came here once as an exile. This world gave me refuge, gave me strength. Now it is my turn to protect it. We will not bend. We will not break. Together, we fight." Those words ignited something. Soldiers who had trembled with fear gripped their rifles tighter. Civilians who had collapsed in despair stood taller. In the face of gods, humanity found a spark of defiance. Far above, the Pantheon's leader smiled. Defiance, he mused, his tone rich with amusement. Always the same with these fragile races. They resist, they burn, they fall. And when they are ashes, they worship. He raised a hand, and the first assault began. From the spires in the ocean burst swarms of constructs, warriors of stone and flame, birthed by the Pantheon's will. They took to the skies like locusts, blotting out the light, descending upon earth in an endless tide. The war for earth had begun. But this world was different. It was not only humanity standing against the gods. It was two exiles bound by a vow older than earth itself, a vow sworn across galaxies, in blood and fire. The cosmic oath had been invoked. And with it, the storm had found its battleground. The Oathkeeper's burden. The battlefield was not yet covered in blood, but the air already tasted of iron and ozone. From the shattered coastline, humanity's army scrambled. Jets streaked overhead, their engines screaming as they loosed missiles into the clouds. On the waves, naval cannons thundered, shells arcing high before slamming into the alien spires that had erupted from the sea. Explosions flared, but the spires did not fall. They pulsed, alive, as though Earth's oceans themselves had become their roots. The alien swarm, creatures of stone and starfire, poured forth in greater numbers than any army could count. They moved in impossible synchrony, their wings slicing the air with metallic shrieks, their talons glowing as though forged in suns. Humanity's weapons struck them down by the dozens, but for every one destroyed, two more emerged from the storm. And through it all, the warrior with the storm hammer stood at the front, his cape torn by gales, his armor already battered by the force of the enemy's arrival. Thor. To some, he was myth. To others, a symbol. To himself, he was neither. He was the last Oathkeeper. And the burden of that truth weighed heavier than his weapon. He fought with fury. Every swing of the hammer shattered constructs into shards of flame. Each strike sent thunder rolling across the battlefield, a sound that gave courage to soldiers and dread to the swarm. But behind the fury was something deeper, something desperate. Superwoman fought beside him, her fists carving streaks of light through the horde. She moved like a star given flesh, her body absorbing blows that would have leveled tanks, her strength hurling creatures back into the sea. Her voice rang out above the carnage. "Keep pushing them back," she shouted, her eyes blazing. "We can hold this line." But Thor knew otherwise. He could feel it in the weight of the hammer, in the storm that raged around them. The Pantheon had not yet descended in full. These swarms were not their strength, they were their test. And humanity was failing. In a brief lull, Thor drove his hammer into the earth, sending a shockwave that cleared the battlefield around them. Superwoman landed beside him, her chest heaving from exertion, her cape torn and singed. Her eyes met his. "We're not enough." The words cut deeper than any blade. He had sworn to her, sworn to himself, that earth would not fall as the others had. The oath he carried bound him to that promise, and yet, looking at the endless storm of enemies, he knew the truth. His voice was low, nearly lost beneath the roar of battle. "I have seen this before. 1,000 times, on 1,000 worlds. The Pantheon does not come to fight, they come to break. They will send wave after wave until your people kneel, or until nothing remains." Superwoman's fists clenched, her glow dimming as doubt pressed in. "Then what hope do we have?" Thor's gaze hardened. He lifted his hammer, its runes flickering with stormlight. "Hope lies not in gods. It lies in them." He turned toward the human soldiers who still fought, men and women who bled and died with weapons pitiful against the swarm, yet refused to surrender. Their bullets shattered on stone. Their shells vanished into flame. And still, they fought. Thor's chest ached, not from battle, but from memory. On a world far away, he had stood before a people much like these. They, too, had believed in him. They, too, had fought. And they, too, had fallen. He had sworn then, as he buried their ashes in the dust of their broken cities, that never again would he fail those who trusted him. The oath was more than words. It was his curse. A scream ripped through the sky. One of the Pantheon descended. The huntress. Her form was lithe, her armor a shifting weave of shadow and starlight. She drew a bow of living darkness, arrows crackling with energy that could pierce mountains. With every shot, jets fell from the sky like burning meteors, their pilots' last screams lost in the roar. Superwoman's eyes blazed. She's targeting the air support. We need to. Thor's hand gripped her shoulder, stopping her. His expression was grim. Not we. Me. Before she could protest, he hurled his hammer skyward. Lightning tore open the clouds, a storm answering his call. He soared into the air, colliding with the huntress in a clash of thunder and shadow. The battle above was cataclysmic. Her arrows streaked like comets, each one capable of leveling a city block. His hammer shattered them, lightning consuming shadow. They fought across the sky, their duel painting the heavens with fire and storm. Below, Superwoman fought on, but her eyes tracked Thor's battle with fear. She could see the strain in his movements, the hesitation in his strikes. He was powerful, yes, but he was not invincible. And she knew his secret, though he would never admit it. Every battle against the Pantheon cost him more than wounds. It cost him his life itself. The oath he bore bound his soul to the storm, burning it brighter each time he wielded it. One day, perhaps one day soon, it would consume him entirely. On the ground, Dr. Ingrid had watched from a battered military command post. She had never believed in gods. She had believed in numbers, in science, in the laws of nature. Yet now she stared at two beings, one of storm, one of light, fighting to protect a fragile species that barely understood the scale of the threat it faced. And for the first time, she felt not fear, but resolve. She turned to the commanders beside her. We cannot wait for them to save us. If they fall, we fall. We must fight as though we are the last line of defense, because we are. Her words spread across comms, relayed to soldiers on every front. And slowly, incredibly, the tide began to shift. Humanity, bloodied and broken, stood taller. Tanks advanced where they had retreated. Soldiers charged where they had hidden. Every shot, every scream, every act of defiance became part of something greater. Thor, locked in battle with the huntress, heard it. Superwoman, fists blazing, felt it. Humanity was not waiting to be saved. Humanity was rising. For the first time in centuries, Thor allowed himself the faintest smile. The oath was no longer his burden alone. It was theirs. Above the battlefield, the Pantheon's leader watched from the rift in the sky. His starfire eyes narrowed. This world, he murmured. This world does not break as easily as the others. His smile returned, colder than the void. Good. Let them burn longer. And with a gesture, he summoned another god. The Flame Titan stepped forward, his body blazing with the heart of a dying sun. The war for Earth was only beginning. Humanity's fire. The horizon burned. The alien spires rooted in the oceans pulsed with otherworldly light, sending endless swarms into the skies. Cities trembled beneath their shadow. Yet even in the midst of terror, Earth did not bow. From New York to New Delhi, from the tundras of Siberia to the deserts of Africa, armies rallied. Soldiers who had once fought each other now stood shoulder to shoulder. Missiles that had been designed to annihilate rivals were reprogrammed and redirected toward the true enemy. Humanity, fractured for centuries, had found its fire. And that fire roared to life at Oslo's battered coast. Superwoman hovered above the waves, her fists blazing as she struck down wave after wave of alien constructs. Her body was battered, cape shredded, but her eyes never wavered. For every strike she delivered, she thought of the humans fighting below. Men with rifles, women carrying the wounded, children huddled in shelters. Their courage fed her strength. Beside her, Thor crashed down from the sky, his hammer wreathed in lightning. The huntress lay broken on the cliffs, her shadow bow shattered, her armor cracked. But victory came at a cost. Thor's breaths were heavy, his face pale beneath his helm. Superwoman landed beside him. "You're burning yourself out." He smirked faintly. "I was burning long before I reached this world." She placed a hand on his chest plate. "You're not alone." "Not anymore." Thor said nothing, but in his storm-lit eyes was gratitude. Above them, the clouds glowed red. The Flame Titan descended. His body was a furnace of molten metal and starfire. With each step, the sea boiled beneath him. His voice was a roar that shook the bones of every soldier. "Your defiance ends here. I am the fire that consumes worlds. You will be ashes." He raised his arms, and firestorms erupted across the coast. Battleships melted. Tanks exploded. Jets fell from the sky like burning debris. The sheer heat drove soldiers to their knees, choking, blind, their weapons useless. For a moment, hope faltered. Then came a new sound, one that even the gods could not ignore. A chorus of missiles streaked across the sky, fired not from Earth's armies but from hidden silos and submarines long thought decommissioned. Nations that had hoarded their most dangerous weapons unleashed them, not at each other, but at the spires, the swarms, the gods. The first impacts tore chunks of stone from the ocean roots. The second wave blasted entire swaths of swarm from the air. And though many weapons failed against the Pantheon's divine armor, the sheer will behind them mattered. For the first time in eons, the Pantheon faced not just resistance but unity. Humanity was fighting as one. Thor saw it, and his chest ached. By the storm, they rise. Superwoman's smile was fierce. "I told you. They don't need gods, they just need a reason." The two heroes launched themselves into battle once more. Superwoman shot into the Flame Titan like a missile, her fists colliding with his burning chest. The impact cracked the air like thunder. She screamed with effort, shoving him back, ignoring the fire that seared her skin. "You will not take this world." The Titan laughed, flame spewing from his mouth. "You think yourself their champion? You are nothing but another ember to extinguish." Thor struck next, hammer slamming into the Titan's leg with the force of a thunderclap. Lightning and fire collided, the clash lighting the ocean like a second sun. The Titan staggered, but his rage only grew. The battle became an apocalypse, lightning storms tearing the sky, firestorms boiling the sea, shockwaves flattening what little of Oslo still stood. And yet, in the midst of it all, humanity did not retreat. Soldiers advanced into the inferno, their vehicles scorched, their weapons glowing from heat, yet their spirits unbroken. Every bullet, every missile, every scream of defiance was a declaration: Earth will not kneel. Dr. Ingrid-eyed, bloodied but unbowed, coordinated the chaos from a mobile command post. Her voice crackled across radios and earpieces, giving orders with clarity born not of rank but conviction. "Redirect all fire toward the Titan's chest. Target the glowing core, concentrate everything you have." Her command spread like wildfire. Artillery shifted, missiles locked, and for the first time, the Titan faltered as barrage after barrage hammered his molten body. He roared, staggering backward, his flames sputtering as cracks appeared across his molten core. Thor saw it and bellowed, "Now! Strike together!" Superwoman rose into the air, light radiating from her fists until she burned like a second sun. Thor leapt beside her, his hammer alive with lightning, the storm itself gathering to his call. Together, they dove. The hammer struck. The fist struck. The human missiles struck. And the Flame Titan exploded. A shockwave ripped across the sea, shattering spires, scattering swarms, and hurling even gods back through the rift above. For a heartbeat, the world was silent. Then humanity roared. Soldiers cheered, commanders wept, civilians rose from shelters with tears streaming down their faces. Against all odds, they had struck down a god. But above, in the rift, the Pantheon's leader watched. His starfire eyes narrowed, his armored fingers curling around a blade of pure void. "So the mortals burn brighter than expected," he murmured. Good. The brighter the flame, the sweeter the ashes. He turned to his remaining gods, the Oracle and the Warfather, their faces unreadable in the void light. Prepare the final descent. Earth has kindled its fire. Let us see if it survives the storm. On the battered coast, Thor sank to one knee, his body trembling, smoke rising from his armor. Superwoman caught his arm, steadying him. You can't keep burning like this, she whispered. His smile was weary but resolute. It is not for me to burn. It is for them. He gestured to the soldiers, to the humans who still fought, still stood, still believed. I am only the storm. They are the fire. Superwoman looked across the battlefield, at the men and women who had turned despair into defiance, at the world that refused to kneel, and she knew he was right. Humanity's fire had been lit. And the Pantheon would learn what it meant to face it.